So, yes, how are you feeling, Rohit? I am actually feeling a little bit nervous to be talking about such a huge topic, Indian podcasting revolution. मुझे तो साउंड ही वो इतना हैवी कर रहा है कि मुझे डर लग रहा है ये पॉडकास्ट करने से भी. What about you?
Well, the entire conversation is going to be an amazing one. That feeling is totally a kind of a great one because then when we started our own podcast, I never imagined that we'll be having such kind of a show. So it is such a pleasure to be on this show, such a pleasure to be hosting this particular show. और जो जर्नी हम लेके आने वाले हैं for our listeners, for our viewers or something like that. तो वो सारी चीज़ें काफ़ी एक मज़ेदार होने वाली है and it's a great experience. Like thanks the podcasting culture, thanks for the podcasting industry for giving us this opportunity ताकि हम हमारे experiences को एक काफ़ी reasonable way में share कर पाएंगे and it is our own experiences. So like we are not carrying something कि एक badge नहीं, एक label नहीं है. It is just about like how we feel about this particular industry, how we feel about this particular experience, and it brings out the best from us. Like have been recorded a lot of episodes, it might be more than 100 of episodes, but doing such kind of episode, doing such kind of a show, it takes a total different feeling, it takes you through a different ride, and I'm surely going to enjoy this. So that is my feeling.
Yeah, exactly. You rightly said, because having done like more than 150 episodes cumulatively, but the thing is that we've always just focused on our core topic. But here we are speaking on behalf of the emerging and established podcasters also. So that this is a bit of too much on the plate for us also, I think. But I think, yes, you rightly said, it's also an opportunity for us to step up and take that point of view about how podcasting industry is shaping up in India, because podcast presents a great opportunity for people to share their views, जैसे कि आज हम कर रहे हैं अपने इस पॉडकास्ट के थ्रू, और पहले भी करते आए हैं for myself as the host of Ace the Sales podcast and you as the host of Motivation Spark and Glitters of Life. And we've had our own success stories and beautiful moments with the podcast. But I think this will be a new experience, and I am also thrilled and excited to start this journey of Indian podcasting revolution with you as the co-host for this show. Yeah, let's get deep into it and uncover what actually is podcasting industry in India. So what's your viewpoint? How have you experienced it as a podcaster for over 2.5 years?
So Roshni, that was such a great insight that you told, like what kind of feelings you have for this. So to tell about my experience, I have grown as a person who listened to the radio. तो हमारे टाइम पे स्कूल्स या फिर कॉलेजेस में रेडियो का ज़माना था एंड दैट वाज समथिंग वेरी फैसिनेटिंग. सो वहाँ पे रेडियो एक सहारा होता था. सो इट वाज अ काइंड ऑफ अ एंटरटेनमेंट चैनल फॉर यू. Because then I just remember, like when I bought my first kind of a featured phone, it had podcast into it. So like I
Really?
used to tune into it. Yeah, like I remember that it was Nokia E71 and it used to have that podcast thing. It was in 2011 or something.
Wow.
So वहाँ पे एक पॉडकास्ट का ये आता था, वो आइकॉन आता था और फिर मैं उसमें जाता था एंड इट वाज जस्ट यूज्ड टू ट्यून इन टू सम काइंड ऑफ ऑडियो एपिसोड्स. तो पहले पता नहीं चलता था, तब के ज़माने में इतने शोज भी नहीं थे जिस प्रकार की अब नीशेस बढ़ गई है, जिस प्रकार के अब शोज आ रहे हैं. इट वॉज क्वाइट अ फैसिनेटिंग थिंग. लाइक व्हाट इज दिस समथिंग विच इज ट्यूनिंग इनटू, वो रेडियो की तरह चल रहा है, फ्यू पीपल आर स्पीकिंग.
When I started my podcast, I really had to teach people to download a particular app and then listen to it. So, matlab, yeah.
And now when we are talking about the podcast industry, when we are talking about our experiences, so things have changed drastically. Now it has become a kind of a medium where you get entertained, where you get educated, where you get inspired. So whatever falls into this brief category, whatever falls into these niches, all gets covered with podcast. So like see the difference. Like पहले हम उसको एंटरटेनमेंट के जरिए एक देखते थे, मतलब रेडियो को. सो दैट इज द काइंड ऑफ अ गैप दैट हैज बीन ब्रिज डाउन बाय द पॉडकास्ट इंडस्ट्री एंड द काइंड ऑफ होस्ट, द काइंड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस पीपल आर गिविंग आउट टू द लिसनर्स और द व्यूअर्स. तो वो एक काफी अमेजिंग एक्सपीरियंस है, मतलब मैंने भी सोचा नहीं था. एंड वो एक होता है हमेशा, लाइक यू हैव दैट काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग लाइक कि मेरा भी कुछ एक आर्टिस्ट या फिर एक नाम होना चाहिए ऑन इंटरनेट. सो podcasting is giving you that kind of a chance to have your own show. So you have the liberty to host it, you have the liberty to speak your mind, or it doesn't matter how do you sound, it doesn't matter what kind of equipments you have. All that matters is the kind of message you are providing through that medium, and eventually you'll be able to suffice all the requirements of the industry. So that has been the kind of experience, and I'm totally loving it, the kind of growth I'm seeing, the kind of opportunities I'm getting into it.
These are two very important things that you've highlighted, Rohit, that from entertainment, we've moved to education and self-expression through podcast. And the second thing is that पहले के टाइम में हम शायद सिर्फ रेडियो पे पॉडकास्ट को और ऑडियो को एक्सपीरियंस करते थे, बट नाउ इट इज अ डेमोक्रेटाइज्ड वे ऑफ everyone having the access and ease of starting a podcast.
Exactly.
So, for the sake of the people listening to this podcast, what inspired you to start your own very own podcast and not one, two? So, how did that happen?
So it is a story of failure and success. To be very honest, as I told earlier, like I wanted to do something on internet, so I started with my YouTube channel, which was all about like technology. I used to unbox the things. I used to give the kind of a technology videos, like tech news types. तो वो एक fascination था. It is just because of my fascination towards gadgets. So I love to own these kind of equipments. वो काफी fancy लगता है, एक ring light, webcam, mic, ये हेडफोन्स वगैरह. तो मेरी जर्नी, जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि वो एक टेक्नोलॉजी का शो मैंने शुरू किया था, बट कुछ लिमिटेशंस होते हैं. सो इट इज ऑलवेज अबाउट लाइक समवन विल बी डिसलाइकिंग योर आइडिया, सो व्हाट इज दिस रबिश काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. तो वो हर एक इंसान के साथ होता है. ओके, सो इवन इफ यू ऑप्ट फॉर अ इंजीनियरिंग थिंग, पीपल विल लैश एट यू कि इंजीनियरिंग में अब क्या बचा है. इवन इफ यू गो फॉर अ कॉमर्स थिंग, पीपल विल से कि यार इसमें तो क्या है, मतलब बी कॉम एम कॉम कर लेते हैं. सो दैट इज द समथिंग, द काइंड ऑफ नोशंस वी हैव इनटू आवर एरिया. तो वो सारी चीज़ों को हम कैसे ब्रेक डाउन करते हैं, कैसे आगे बढ़ते हैं. सो दैट वाज माय अटेम्प्ट टुवर्ड्स स्टार्टिंग माय जर्नी ऑन इंटरनेट. देन आई टूक अ ब्रीफ गैप कि यार समझ नहीं आ रहा था कि आगे क्या करना चाहिए. एंड एट दैट पर्टिकुलर मोमेंट व्हेन आई वाज ऑन इंटरनेट, आई गॉट दिस आइडिया फ्रॉम डिजिटल प्रतीक, लाइक कि पॉडकास्टिंग एक ऐसा मीडियम है वेर यू जस्ट हैव टू रिकॉर्ड योर ऑडियो एंड देन यू हैव टू share your voice with the audience. So I got fascinated with this idea, not just because like it doesn't require a lot of equipments. Okay, it was more about expressing yourself, because I'm very closely knitted to the kind of personal development topics about life, observing people and knowing more about how it evolves, how it can be experienced by the people. So वो एक experience मुझे लेके आना था, and I felt कि चलो मीडिया बैकग्राउंड नहीं है, but let's try this out. So Glitters of Life was launched through that particular idea. So it wasn't a research based. मुझे किसी ने गाइडेंस नहीं दिया था, मुझे किसी ने बताया नहीं था कि ये नाम रख लो आप. सो इट वॉज मोर अबाउट लाइक ग्लिटर्स. हाँ, वो एक सोने की एक चमक होती है, तो वहां से एक आया लाइफ के बारे में बातें करनी है. दैट इज द रीजन आई टुक द लाइफ. सो ग्लिटर्स ऑफ लाइफ काफी यूनिक था. तो फिर वही जमाना आगे बढ़ता गया, एपिसोड्स करता गया मोबाइल फोन पे रिकॉर्ड करते हुए. एंड देन इट वॉजंट सीइंग अ काइंड ऑफ अ ग्रोथ. सो आई थॉट लाइक आई एम डूइंग समथिंग रॉन्ग. सो दैट इज द रीजन आई फेल्ट लाइक कि यार किसके लिए कर रहा हूँ, ये अमेरिकन लोगों के लिए नहीं है, ये यूरोपियन लोगों के लिए नहीं है. I want to do something for the Indian audience. So right now, when we are talking about the Indian podcasting revolution, it is more for the kind of growth. It is more of the kind of experience that the Indian podcaster should have. Care, like for whom I'm doing. So let's start a show which would be in Hindi and which would cater to the needs of the audience, which would cater to the emotions of the audience. I was totally bad at like delivering my message, pitch, tempo, etc. You leave that all parts apart. Like you can totally relate with it, Roshni. मतलब
Yes, true.
so वो
And I think it's true for every new podcaster. They will hate their first 10
yeah,
episodes,
definitely.
especially their voice.
Even today, I tell people like don't listen to my first few of the episodes. So like if you're going to
Yeah.
judge me from that, like please pardon me.
But then of course voice is the thing which actually is the foundational piece of the podcast. Like we said earlier, that it is an aspect of self expression. No matter how bad you sound, but your thoughts are awesome. What you bring to the podcast, the conversation, the intention, what you want to create out of that podcast is magnificent, and that is what you should believe in.
So that was something like it gave birth to the motivation spark. और फिर वही एक कहानी, मतलब वहां पे एक फेलियर और यहाँ पे एक नई शुरुआत, और उसका रिजल्ट किसी को पता नहीं था. सो दैट इज That is the kind of a story I had. And then it started in 2019, और काफ़ी एक अर्ली स्टेज थी इंडियन पॉडकास्टिंग की। और बस वही बोला जाता था ना कि आपको बस ऑडियो रिकॉर्ड करना है और डाल देना है इंटरनेट पे। सो दैट वाज़ समथिंग लाइक, किसने रिसर्च नहीं किया, किसी ने वीडियो नहीं देखे मैंने कि यूट्यूब पे कि कैसे वॉइस को मॉड्यूल किया जाए, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग्स यू शुड बी हैविंग, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इमोशंस यू शुड बी ब्रिंगिंग इनटू द चैनल, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ लाइक थॉट्स यू शुड बी हैविंग। तो वो सारी डिलीवरी वगैरह वो एक काफ़ी मोनोटोनस वे में थी। बट देन समवेयर डाउन द लाइन आई थॉट लाइक कि वो मैसेज पिकअप हो रहा है। इट स्टार्टेड टू get some kind of attraction, and I felt like कि I was doing well. I felt like closely connected with the kind of medium it was. तो फिर वो जब अपना सा लगने लगता है, when you feel comfortable about, and it is not something that my life was going through a rough patch or something like that. बिल्कुल नहीं। क्योंकि हर एक को लगता है कि कुछ अगर कर रहा है तो मतलब कहीं न कहीं खराब है चीज़ें, इसलिए एक एस्केप रूट ढूँढते हैं हम हमेशा। So that was not something out of it. It was more about my curiosity. It was more through the kind of talent I have got. And today, most of the people always compliment me for the kind of voice I carry. So most of the people feel that I have a good voice. So that is a huge compliment for me, and it keeps me kind of on a booster phase. मतलब कि चलो करते जाओ, करते जाओ.
I think listening to your journey, I always have felt that it was more about you discovering and uncovering your hidden talent. मतलब you come from a finance background and to get into an entirely new field, बिल्कुल creativity से भरी हुई है ये field. And like you said, not coming from a media background, like myself also, I'm not coming from a media background, yet here we are
Yeah.
talking about podcast and starting a media production house, right? So Done For You podcast produces podcasts for experts and entrepreneurs, and हियर वी आर। उसके लिए कोई ज़रूरी नहीं है एमबीए करा हुआ हो, मीडिया इंडस्ट्री से आए हुए हो। यू ओनली नीड the passion, the intention, and a deep understanding of doing the work. So हम लोग ने 2 साल से ऊपर पॉडकास्ट कर चुके हैं। We've gone through the ups and downs and the aches and the hatred of कि अरे नहीं एक और रिकॉर्डिंग नहीं। So वो overwhelm and everything we've gone through, and that's what we want to address through this podcast channel as well, because there are a lot of teething issues as a new podcaster. And through this channel, I think we will be answering a lot of those issues for new podcasters, because it's not just about finding your voice and self expression, but also to leveraging it to create an impact for a particular objective, be it a business objective, be it something that you do for your personal fulfillment. But at the end of the day, you do want recognition, and you do want that people like you and love you for the creations that you do through the podcast. But it's a tough journey, it's not an easy journey, and full transparency here, that's what we are going to bring to this show. And it's not just our own experiences, but also experiences of many other podcasters who've gone through this journey, and also the global perspective, because like you said that it has mostly been a process of discovery for you, of doing by doing. मेरे लिए भी वो एक एक्सपीरियंस था, लर्निंग थी बाय डूइंग, बट अ लॉट ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस वाज फ्रॉम द ग्लोबल arena, because as a sales and business consultant, when during the pandemic my business expanded into international spaces, I got to see and observe how coaches and consultants are leveraging podcast as a marketing tool for their business, and that actually gave me an idea of how I can do it for myself and my business also. एंड तब मुझे समझ आया कि पॉडकास्ट सिर्फ इस चीज़ के लिए नहीं है कि हाँ आज बारिश हो रही है, चाय पी रहे हैं, पकौड़े खा रहे हैं, सो लेट्स रिकॉर्ड अ पॉडकास्ट एपिसोड। इट कैन बी मच मोर देन दैट, राइट?
Yeah.
And that's what I started to work upon, to very strategically use it for business to create more influence and impact, and elevate my own personal brand. That's what happened. And thankfully, like your podcast gained so many listenership, 2 lakhs plus listeners on your podcast, Motivation Spark. My podcast also got a lot of recognition, but it has been a journey for both of us, and that journey, that experience is what we bring to this channel. And I'm so excited about bringing this experience as well as the global perspectives to this channel. So, yes, that's what the listeners of Indian Podcasting Revolution can expect to gain. And would you like to share, Rohit, what kind of future episodes also they can expect, our listeners, for this show?
Definitely. So Roshni, I would just like to add one thing out here, like कि कोई ट्रेंड हम राइड नहीं कर रहे हैं. सो इट इज आर काइंड ऑफ एफर्ट वेर वी फील दैट कि इतना बड़ा एक देश है और यहाँ पे सारी चीज़ें इतनी स्कैटर्ड है. सो वी कैन लाइक हाउएवर वी ट्राई, लाइक आई विल बी पोस्टिंग अ लॉट ऑफ लाइक carousels, आई विल बी पोस्टिंग लॉट ऑफ लिंक्डइन पोस्ट, ट्विटर पोस्ट और इंस्टाग्राम पे मैं जितनी भी इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करता हूँ, कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है कि लाइक वी आर फॉलिंग शॉर्ट ऑफ इट. So bringing that all together into one domain is the kind of efforts that we are taking through this particular show, and it is our label. It is the kind of expertise that we are bringing. We are not saying like we are the experts, but it is totally our experience. It is totally the work we have done into the industry, so that we feel that we can offer a bit of our share to this particular industry, so that you can learn, you can grow, and we get a reason to celebrate it together. So when we are going to talk about the kind of episodes we are going to see, the kind of content you are going to get through this particular podcast, then it is going to be a kind of a very exciting one. It is going to be a very diverse. So we'll be deep diving into a lot of things. So the first thing, like the kind of episode we are recording right now, it is something that we are sharing our personal stories. We are sharing our personal experiences about podcasting. So definitely that will add value, because हमारे एक्सपीरियंसेस, हमने क्या गलतियां की है, हमने क्या सही किया है, और हमें किस प्रकार से वो सारी चीज़ों को सही करना है. सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट विल बी ब्रिंगिंग. Then if we talk about what are the global trends, what are the kind of a strategic way you have to create your show, the kind of strategic partnerships you need to scale your show, or the kind of efforts that you need to put into by technically building your sound show, then it is something that you can totally expect on this particular podcast. Because then now the other form of content, it could be like the personal experiences of the other podcasters. So that is very much required. Isn't it true, Roshni? मतलब कि
Yeah, I'm sure ये वाला डिपार्टमेंट तो तुम ही संभालने वाले हो, रोहित, because you are so famous amongst the podcaster community, because you have actually shown how a mere intention of just sharing your voice can go big. And that's why a lot of podcasters get inspired by you. So it will be interesting to see your conversations with fellow podcasters also. One thing which I am very very excited about bringing to this show and channel is the importance of including diverse voices and all kinds of voices. So like when we create shows in our production company, we are so intentional about bringing the voices of women to podcast. And um, and that's how we try to create more diversity in this space. Likewise, there are so many voices which are vernacular, which are not only English but Hindi, Tamil, Marathi, and so many other voices. So we would like to bring in those perspective as well. We would also like to bring the global perspective, because I think the US industry moves 3 to 4 years ahead of the Indian industry. And if we are able to bring that global perspective through this podcast, there will be such a huge amount of learning to this entire industry and community. And it will be like accelerating the rise of podcast in India. So it will be very enriching learning experience for us as hosts and everyone else who's listening to the podcast, to hear from industry experts who are working at the global arena and the global level. So we will be bringing those people as well. And yes, if any one of the listeners would like to ask us any questions, send across their queries, or send feedback for this podcast, or give us suggestions, feel free to drop us a message on any of the social media channels. We would love to create future episodes which are answering your top questions, top of the mind questions. Any last words from you, Rohit, for this episode?
Definitely pretty excited, pretty pumped up for the kind of conversations that we are going to bring for the audience, and it is going to be a memorable experience कि हमने ऐसा कुछ किया था और हमने हमारे लिए नहीं, हमारी इंडियन पॉडकास्टिंग रेवोल्यूशन कुछ बदलने की कोशिश की है, एंड दैट इज़ आवर होल ऑब्जेक्टिव, दैट इज़ आवर होल take on this particular show, so that you can totally expect raw and real conversation. You can totally expect the kind of help you are needing from the particular experts that will be bringing, the kind of voices we'll be having from this show. So it is going to be an quite open show. मतलब कि आप आइए हमारे साथ बातें कीजिए, share your experiences, share your knowledge, so that the kind of knowledge stream, the kind of wisdom stream that we are going to create through this particular show, it is going to be a kind of a great experience for each and every person.
And with that, let's see you in the next episode, listeners. Bye for now.